Welcome back to another episode of Football Tailgaters Podcast, where we talk everything about the NFL, including the bets. Today's episode, we have another 3 questions, and this time we're going to do something a little bit special. Every time we do a podcast, we're going to talk about the groups or like the divisions in the NFL, like NFC North, East, South, West, and so on. From each group, we're gonna have our thoughts on who will win the division and what teams will possibly make the playoffs. And then we'll start with the NFC North. That's gonna be what we're gonna be talking about in this podcast. So that'll be the Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings. And then our second question. Joe Burrow in a podcast says that Baker Mayfield will find a new team. And then we'll just talk about which team we think he'll land in. And then lastly, Nick Saban claimed Texas A&M purchased all recruits to build the team, and other teams will follow, which will affect college football. And we'll have our thoughts on that. And we'll start off with that question first. I guess we'll start off with Andy. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I did see that on some of the topics in like today's morning news, I guess, but I'm not like fully aware of this kind of stuff. So can you elaborate or put your thoughts in here first, Andy?
Yeah, for sure. So we all know who Nick Saban is. He's the Alabama football head coach. He has tremendous success. He's like the Bill Belichick there in college. He basically is almost in the championship every single year. So he had something to say that was that's been going around the news lately. And basically what he said, and I'll quote him. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. Texas A&M was first. Texas A&M bought every player on their team. Made a deal for name, image, and likeliness. We didn't buy one player, all right? But I don't know if we are going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. It's tough. Basically, what's going on is that Nick Saban singled out Texas A&M, and I mean, the one that took offense to it is Jimbo Fisher, which is the Texas A&M head coach. And he singled them out to buying every single player that they had in their football team. And that way, it's like you're purchasing your whole football team by paying each one of them, each player, so you can have like the best team possible to compete. So that is basically what happened, and it's going throughout the news of like some people are being, I don't know, they're like, a lot of analysts are like, well, this is no surprise, this is normal, this is what happens. Also, ex-football players, I mean, they're not part of the management with other college teams, but they actually hear like, oh no, I hear it from my old colleges that this is what it is. So it's just whoever has like more money to pay for it, they basically do that to just make the team better. So in my opinion, at the end of the day, I just think Nick Saban just doesn't like competition. In other words, I think he's just, I don't know, I don't want to say a crybaby, but he just wants to. He's not liking when other teams are going to get better because he has a really good football program. He has a lot of football players that go to the NFL. So right now, it's his image, it's his brand, basically the Alabama football team. So when they're recruiting from Alabama, they have their name and they're like, hey, if you come to my team, you have a better shot to get into the NFL. You're going to be coached by Nick Saban, one of the best college coaches, if not the best college head coach of all time. And it's hard to compete with that if you're other colleges. So I just think that, I mean, if you're another college and you're trying to compete against all of these bigger college names like LSU, Clemson, that have the Notre Dame, that have these big football programs, and you don't have the players, so I mean, you can save up money and just start buying players and pay for their scholarships, and just give them some cash on the side. I mean, if I put myself in a college football player's shoes, I mean, do I get paid now and see what happens later, or do I just go to the best football program? I mean, or the best fit for me. So, I mean, people want to get paid. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Hasn't this been going on forever? I mean, like, all of a sudden Nick Saban is complaining why? Because now football athletes have options. Now they don't have to go to Alabama and be the 4th, 6th, 7th cornerback on the team.
I mean, yeah, it has happened. It's just that now that players can get paid,
right?
I guess he's just not liking it. And then he's saying that other teams is going to be like doing it as well. It's going to make it tough. I think it's actually going to make it a lot better, a lot more competitive.
For fans.
Exactly, for fans, especially if you're, I don't know, a team from, I don't know, a smaller college, just like Texas A&M. I mean, you also can get lucky. I mean, they had Johnny Manziel and they did really well for themselves. But I mean, it takes time to find those types of players. So here in this way, you have a more competitive chance to be more competitive and be able to get to that championship, especially to the major the college football championship. I mean, that one they have they have a committee that chooses which teams go up there, and it's usually the same teams. It's Alabama, it's Clemson, it's LSU. And then they try to put somebody that is just like a big time underdog, like this year was Cincinnati. So, I mean, I just think it just helps the situation to be more fair.
If you ask me, it sounds like you just mentioned it too. It sounds like he's complaining because he doesn't have like the first hand in recruitment, because now there's incentives to go to other teams, because now you can get either paid. And I know that was a change that happened recently. That help athletes get paid for the service they do, and that makes it fair because they're doing something for themselves, and at least they get paid for that. While these coaches and universities are out there making millions off their talent. So, I mean, are you telling me that maybe athletes are dying to be in Alabama? Maybe, but if there's options now, and there's coaches, and that makes it. There's coaches that are good, and maybe not Nick Saban great, right? But at least now this type of movement and this change makes it competitive, just like you mentioned, now that we have LSU's always up there, Clemson, Alabama. But now we're going to have a change and see other smaller universities have a shot now that the recruitment's a little bit more fair. At least that's my opinion.
The head coach of Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, he was pretty offended about it, and he took the comments pretty personal. He went on to say, it's despicable that a reputable head coach can come out and say this when he doesn't get his way. And then he said, the narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. It's ridiculous when he's not on top. Which, I mean...
No, and I agree with that.
Yeah, it's 100% true.
It's surprising that he even said something. He's such a respectable kind of guy to open his mouth like that.
Well, that just shows you how there's like those types of people that are super competitive and they just cry about things without just like letting go and just trying to get better and and just use it as a motivation. Okay, if you're recruiting players and paying them and trying to get a better team, well, then I have to do a step up and do a better job to coach my team. I mean, this event happened in Birmingham, Alabama, so I'm sure that there was like a lot of people part of the college program. So I think this was also a way to motivate the college program to ask for more boosters. Do you guys know what college boosters are?
No.
Basically, they're the representatives of schools, and they're the ones that go and start recruiting athletes and
scouts.
Yeah, they're like scouts, but they're actually the ones that go to their houses and speak to their parents and just trying to make it a little bit more enticing for them. And this is a way. I mean, each school has a budget, right, for boosters, for these people for these representatives to go and speak to these players. So I'm thinking like he was just like asking for Alabama also for like help, like, hey guys, we need to do, if other teams are going to be paying their players, we have to do a better job in recruiting. So we are going to actually need a bigger budget in order to get these players. Because I guess his brand is not going to be helping that much anymore.
Nick Saban's brand.
Nick Saban's brand, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in football, everybody knows, even if you're not into college football, you've heard of the name Nick Saban before. I mean, he did coach a little bit in the NFL, but he most of his career, his success has come from college. So, I mean, this is a way to, maybe he just said the words in the wrong way, or maybe he just doesn't care, and just be very competitive and be like, hey, so it's kind of like maybe it went both ways. Like, I really don't like that other teams are buying their football team, and hey, Alabama, I need you guys to be a little bit more better in recruiting these players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm seeing here other stuff that because I've been hearing, I don't know if you guys have heard about the transfer portal, that they're gonna change something about it, and also that there's gonna be now, I didn't even know this, but there's a 25-man counter limit, which basically means that colleges are limited to only signing 25 players to their team, and that was implemented in 2011. But now they brought it down to 25, so these teams wouldn't oversign players, and now they're taking that off again. So I don't know. It seems interesting that right now the NCAA is going through a lot of changes, and I guess you could say it was in some cases a domino effect, because these players they want to get paid, and they want to use their likeness and get money from college instead of just not really, or work really hard and risk their bodies so early just to go to the NFL when they have like all those 4 years.
Yeah, and I really hope there's not those people that start complaining and saying, well, you see, this is what happened when we start paying players. Like, we already knew, like, down, like, below the table, behind closed doors, they're paying them. So, but I really hope people don't start complaining about these players getting paid, because, like, seriously, I know that they're kids, but they should get paid. I mean, you guys don't know what's gonna happen to their situation. Maybe they get hurt and their career's over, and because they got hurt, maybe they're gonna have a bad knee for the rest of their life, or a bad back, or whatever. I mean, they should get paid. And I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but don't you guys think, like, when athletes are looked at a little bit different because you're such a fan of the team sport that you just want the team to win, and you look at athletes differently than other, like, students, let's say?
No, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, like, if a student got a big bonus for getting a job at this big company, you're going to say good for him, he's very smart. But when it's an athlete, it's like, not so, maybe they're too young, or it's not right for the team, or whatever. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm all for people getting paid.
I was just thinking about something that one of you guys kind of triggered in my brain. So, like, Nick Saban is probably butthurt now that maybe now there's incentives to go to other teams, right? And it kind of reminds me of a time where I think Joe Burrow was one, and I think at the time Urban Meyer, wasn't he like a big shot head coach in the NFL?
Yeah, in Ohio.
In Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Ohio?
Yeah, he was in Ohio.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if he was one of them, but he, Nick Saban, if you decide to go to his team, since it's such a popular team because by his name, it's brand name, mm-hmm. Nick Saban, they want to go because they think that might have a better shot at going into the NFL. You're being coached by Nick Saban, the guy, the Bill Belichick of college football. And I think Urban Meyer was one of them, right? And Joe Burrow was on his team, and maybe he was even enticed to go to that team because of Urban Meyer at the time. but he was a backup. And so he moved from that team to LSU, who was at the time Orison, who was kind of like a whatever kind of head coach. He's not there anymore. But that just goes back to my argument there is if you go to Alabama and you could become the 5th or 6th cornerback because they're recruiting a lot of people. Everyone wants to go there.
Well, what about that rule that Aaron said about that limit rule? Unless there's still more wiggle room, you know?
Maybe.
Like, yeah, there's probably some wiggle room, and they're like, okay, these are the ones to recruit, but
your
these are the ones that just signed up by themselves individually or something.
Yeah, but my point is like your chance to make it in the NFL lessens, no? If you're in Alabama, if you're like the 4th one in line.
I don't know if that's even true because we've had quarterbacks like Tua, Jalen Hurts, and who was the other one? Mac Jones. So at some point, these three, like, I'm not too sure, but they were like backups and to each other, and they had the opportunity there to win. But I mean, I haven't looked into it really deeply with other backups that they have there or how many quarterbacks they have. But I mean, if I'm a quarterback and this is and I'm not saying this is the case, but I mean, you had Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua, all from Alabama go into the NFL, and there was at some point there were backups to each other. I mean, it kind of motivates me a little bit if I want to go into the NFL to be part of that team too. I mean, again, it's a big brand there. It's Alabama. I mean, each year there's NFL players that are from Alabama, like constantly, and you have just more people like looking at you because you're Alabama. More people get excited by you. We had a wide receiver from Alabama actually win the Heisman Trophy. That's not even.
And he's not. Well, look.
We don't see that too often. Regardless of how good they are in the NFL, I mean, you have more eyes towards you, and you have more of a shot to get into the NFL.
I'm just saying that they're being recruited to a team that's popular because it's branded by Nick Saban. So you have other recruits as well that are in there. You have to compete. That's all my argument is. Now you're like 4th, 3rd, 5th cornerback on the team, and your shot to get seen on a Nick Saban team is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see your point, I guess.
It's okay you disagree. You can say that. You don't have to agree with me.
Well, I just think it's kind of wacky and crazy in general, and the fact, and like you guys mentioned earlier of my point that they're actually getting rid of that 25 player limit. So it seems like they're going to be, I mean, the article just said it's NCAA is expected to remove that.
So it's unlimited?
Not yet.
Maybe, not yet. It might be, they just might increase it or they just might get rid of it completely. But I mean, now that the colleges have more of like an incentive for other players to come towards them rather than just the big names right away, it's going to be fair game for everyone, I think. At least it's going to be a more even playing field, and it might be more exciting. But we'll move on to that next topic. We'll talk about Joe Burrow mentioning Baker Mayfield in a podcast, talking about how he expects him to be on a team soon. He thinks he'll find a new team, and we'll ask that question: do you guys think he'll be traded? I'll ask it like this: do you think he'll be traded this season, or is he going to be on another team this season?
You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Well, look, I don't know what's the case with the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what's gonna happen with Deshaun Watson. I don't know if they're going to suspend him. I don't know what's the deal. I want to say I lean more towards him staying in Cleveland Browns, but I don't know if he'll play. I think he's just pissed off, right, to be there. So I have a couple of landing options for him. One of my favorite ones is Seahawks, it might be a place where Baker Mayfield can go compete for the starting job. I think it would be a no-brainer type of decision in Seahawks because we all know what kind of talent Luck is. Another place maybe he can try to go, and it won't be a starter right away, but I think it might be a good option, is going to Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he will be a backup to Tom Brady. We all assume that it's Tom Brady's last year. He's going into retirement. So we can safely assume that he steps into the job once Tom Brady retires. Carolina Panthers, I don't see that they have much faith in Sam Darnold. They did draft a quarterback, I believe, in the third round. So that could be a potential landing spot for Baker Mayfield to compete for a starting quarterback job and maybe be easily contested over there as a Panther.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the Buccaneers to have him as a backup. I don't think that's...
Would he want to be a backup?
Well, no, because Tom Brady won't be there for long. And Tom Brady's going to leave him a good team, assuming that everybody stays at that time. Because, I mean, some contracts are pretty fresh there. I don't know how many, but there's some good talent there. And, I mean, personally, I don't think Baker Mayfield is great or anything, but who knows, maybe the surrounding team is good enough to carry him or make him look better than he actually is. I don't know, but because they have good running backs, the Buccaneers. I think if he were to be traded, it would be the Buccaneers, but I don't think he's going to be traded. I think this year he's sticking with the Browns and he's just riding it out. I think it's not going to go smoothly with the whole Deshaun Watson situation, and I think we're going to be seeing him playing some games until Watson comes back after like a suspension or whatever happens in that situation.
It's certainly an interesting situation because the Browns, they got themselves in a hole when one, getting Deshaun Watson. I mean, we don't know how long he's going to be suspended for. They did get Jacoby Brissett. I'm not too sure if they're thinking, you know what, if Baker's not here, I mean, we'll just go with Jacoby Brissett and play some games there. I mean, and also last year, the Cleveland Browns picked up Baker Mayfield's fifth-year option. So he's estimated to make around almost $19 million, like 18.8, I believe. And so if he gets traded, the other team, I mean, depending on how the trade goes, or maybe they'll pay half or whatever, but the team that gets him is either paying the whole $18 million, or maybe they work something out, or Cleveland is just will eat the contract just to not have him there. That can definitely happen. I think that a good spot would be for him to actually be going to the Seahawks. I do like that idea that you said, Yams, of him going to Tampa Bay. I mean, the team is already set up, and I mean, I wouldn't mind sitting behind Tom Brady and just collect my $18 million and I just watch. I mean, that would be the perfect scenario. But what team? I mean, you also have to look at his personality thing, like his ego-ness. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a team like the Buccaneers will humble him, being right next to Tom Brady humble him. Or maybe, I don't know, he has a huge ego that he doesn't really care if it's Tom Brady or not. I know that he's a very competitive guy, but I mean, that's a situation that we have. But I'm pretty sure that he'll find another team. I do have some other teams that he may end up with. I mean, I just said Seattle would be the easiest place for him to go, but why not the Atlanta Falcons? That's another place that he can go to as well. I know that they have Mariota, but I don't know. They can have a quarterback competition there. I don't know, and I think that would be mostly it. I was gonna think the Pittsburgh Steelers right before they got Kenny Pickett, so that's out the door. But I would say Atlanta would be another spot that he can land.
Yeah, not bad. It's just it sucks for him, honestly. First of all, that he's in that situation.
I mean, does it really suck for him?
I mean, yeah, he just got kicked out of his team that he said he was committed to just winning, and
I mean,
yeah, but think about how his talent was questionable.
I mean,
Yeah,
but
he
he doesn't
kinda-
really see it that way, though. He tries to. I mean, by the way, it seems his ego is just tough enough to just ignore that and be like, "No, I'm good, and I think I can take this team further and beyond."
I'm sure that he's just pointing the fingers at Cleveland, saying this is all your fault, mostly. Like probably like 90% of it. I'm sure that he's thinking like it's
Yeah, because what is he gonna
Cleveland's fault,
say?
not
I
mine.
suck.
And even if he thinks that of himself, like I have to play better, I don't think he really thinks that. I think there's probably athletes that think that they need to play better or whatever. Like I'm sure Carson Wentz is one of them.
Yeah.
That think this is his last shot to be a franchise quarterback. So I think in a way, he needs to figure out first of all to check his egoness, and second of all, he needs to just have an open-minded. So sorry about that. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but at the end of the day, what I was saying is that Baker Mayfield needs to check into his personality, really do some soul searching, just so he can get better and just have an open mind. Whichever team that he goes to, Seattle Seahawks seems like the best fit for him. I can also see the Atlanta Falcons, but I really like Yams' thought process in going to Tampa Bay. I mean, I'm sure if Tampa Bay would accept him, and I mean it would be like the perfect spot for him. But I don't feel sorry for him because he's making $18 million, and regardless, so I think that just works in his favor. I don't feel sorry for him, and maybe he's even happy to leave Cleveland too.
I just think. Oh well, yeah, probably, but I just think that it sucks because he's that type of player that he most likely will just never. He probably hit his ceiling, and he just probably never be like. Just like he's probably just gonna be good enough, but never great or surpass like other great quarterbacks. Like at this point, I think he's peaked for sure. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I think if we had to compare, I would pull up a comparison: Carson Wentz or Baker Mayfield. I think I would do Baker Mayfield personally.
No, no.
Well,
know what
okay.
you
What
guys
about
think.
Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield?
Kirk Cousins.
That's
Kirk
a little bit
Cousins,
of
of course.
Why? He hasn't won?
Yeah, no, I don't know. That's a
Didn't
tough
Trevor
one.
Siemian almost take him to
They're
the Super
kind
Bowl
of similar.
with the Vikings? Kirk Cousins hasn't been able to do that. So I don't think it's
Remind me, wasn't he a backup quarterback for the New York Jets? Remind me when he almost took him to the Super Bowl.
it was probably like 4 years ago. It
I
was
don't
that
remember.
it was that great game against the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if it was Trevor Siemian or Case Keenum.
I think you're talking about Case Keenum.
Case
And
Keenum.
it was that miracle pass that he just threw it in this to the Case Keenum. Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Case Keenum. That was Case Keenum.
So
Keenum.
I mean, Kirk Cousins hasn't taken him that far, and Case Keenum did. So I don't think it's a bad comparison, Kirk Cousins with Baker Mayfield or even Carson Wentz. I think they're like in that same level, all three of them. That they just need a lot of help in order to get to the Super Bowl. So.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think it's kind of crazy to just compare all three of them. They're in the same level in my opinion. They're not average. They're a little bit better than
exactly.
average. Above average. Not great, just above average.
Mm-hmm.
There's
For sure.
average,
I would-
there's above average,
It's
there's
just-
good, and then there's great, and they're above average.
I would put Kirk Cousins and Carson
Yeah.
Wentz more on the same boat, and I put Baker Mayfield a little below.
Why is that?
Because
I don't agree because they've all done the same kind of accomplishments. They've gone to the playoffs.
And you can even
but that's
look
it.
at and say, like, when's the last time that Cleveland went to the playoffs, and who's the one that took them there? Baker
the
Mayfield.
GM.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield.
I mean, the GM is the one that drafted Baker
yeah, I don't know about
Mayfield,
that
so
one.
And brought 1,000 running backs.
they have a really good running back. I really like that duo, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's a big time help. It's just that I don't think it worked with Odell Beckham there. Landry is a good receiver, but they just needed somebody else. It's gonna be interesting how Cooper is there. I mean, I don't know if Baker's gonna just. I mean, there's still time until he has to make that decision if he wants to, like, I don't know, maybe even sit out if he ever decides to do that, which I don't think he should. But
See, and I don't think that's in his nature, as you mentioned, if he's competitive, right? I don't think he's gonna sit out if he stays in Cleveland, because let's face it, Deshaun Watson's gonna get suspended, right?
we would assume. I can't tell you that 100%.
Well, didn't Ben
Yeah.
when he had those rape accusations, didn't he get suspended about 4 games?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, he got suspended for 4 games, and I don't know how many rape allegations came.
But the
against
thing
him.
is that I
This guy has 22.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a higher percentage that he is going to be suspended. We don't know for how long. I'm thinking it's
Half a season.
8 games. Which is sort of a half a season, I guess, because there's 17 games now. But I don't know if it's because what if there's a situation that they're playing in the season, and Baker Mayfield's just doing well with these wide receivers. There's Landry's gone, Beckham is gone, and you have Cooper, which I don't know how that's gonna work because we know what he did in Dallas. He was great at some moments, and then where is he? So we'll have that question mark. And then they have the other wide receivers. He has a long name. Donovan Peoples-Jones, exactly.
Peoples-Jones.
So why not? I mean, they might have, and they still have those 2 running backs, so they might have a good shot.
I don't think so. Not with Baker, but I read some sources, and I don't know if they are confirmed sources, but supposedly Deshaun Watson will be suspended about 6 to 8 games.
Yeah, seems about right.
I don't know if it's these sources are even valid sources, but like you said, it sounds about right, and I think he should be suspended for all those allegations that happened towards him. So, do I think that they have a better shot with Baker Mayfield as quarterback and not Deshaun Watson? No, but at least it's not dead. It's not completely like, oh, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, because the other option is Jacoby Brissett, and I think Baker Mayfield's just better.
Better, right? So it's not like, oh, season's lost, but it gives them a fighting chance with Baker Mayfield.
It'll be interesting if he does stay and he plays and they're winning. Well, what are they gonna do after Deshaun Watson is able to play?
Roll with the hot hand or not?
I would roll with the hot hand, yeah, and then trade him and get some higher picks. That's what I would do exactly if I'm thinking that way. Like, hey, Deshaun Watson, I know that we asked for you to be here. You're still making a lot of money. Who doesn't like to get paid? You're just gonna wait till next year.
I think so too. I think they should just roll with it and
then imagine if Deshaun Watson doesn't work out and then Baker just lights it up somewhere else.
It could be. I know Deshaun Watson's contract. It's stated that if he doesn't play per game, he gets like a very low paycheck for those games. So even Cleveland Brown anticipates him being suspended.
I didn't know that, actually. That's interesting. Wow. Well, I do think he might be suspended. I mean, I think Baker Mayfield will stay. I think he'll play. And because, Deshaun Watson would probably be suspended. And, yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to see him do good, and then Deshaun Watson's able to play and see what they do in that decision, to see if they just blatantly just, like, trade him away. But isn't it, if he, let's say he's suspended 8 games, when is the trade
It's around November, so that I think it's...
wouldn't that be around November?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah,
they would have to trade him before.
Well, yeah, I don't think probably traded during the season. I doubt it. How many quarterbacks do you see traded during the season? I don't think I see that at all. I see wide receivers and other like position players, but a quarterback, I don't see quarterbacks being traded. I don't remember even a time that a quarterback was traded during the season, like a big one, just so that he can play in another team. I don't think that'll happen.
But you were saying that it could happen, depending on the
No,
situation.
I'm,
you said
yeah,
if he has a hot hand.
I'm actually saying it that without the trading, like he's just gonna stay there. The trade will happen after the season. Like I wouldn't think like during the season.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next one. We're gonna be talking about, I guess, the not daily, but like the once in, I don't know. We're gonna be talking about each division in the NFL, and we're gonna see who will win the division and who will make the playoffs. So we're gonna start off with the NFC North here. We have the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, and Minnesota Vikings. We'll start with Andy. Who do you think will win the division, and who's
easily? I say the Packers are going to be obvious. The division leaders, and they're going to win that division. Even though their weapons have gone down, but I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And he just finds whoever he has there on wide receivers, he just makes them better. He's that type of quarterback, like Tom Brady. Whatever wide receivers that you put on him, they just shine. He just elevates them. And then they like we were talking about in our previous episodes, that they beefed up their defense, or their defense should be better. They did pay their cornerback Alexander. He's a decent cornerback. And they still have Aaron Jones. That guy is a beast in the running game. So I don't know why they were talking about last year. I think like the Packers might be even trading him. I think that's the stupidest thing that you can do for the time being, because he has helped that team so much. So I do understand about with running backs that they have a peaking point, but I mean, it wasn't a time to trade him. Like, look, he's still perfectly fine where he's at. So at Green Bay, when it comes time to, and he wants to like jump ship, then or like wants to get paid, then that's when you think about trading him. But yeah, the Packers are going to be number 1. Number 2, I have the Minnesota Vikings, and the reason is because they have so many good weapons in the offense. I mean, they have Kirk Cousins, and they do shine offensively. They have Jefferson, which he is looked at as probably a top 5 wide receiver at this point. You do have the running back Cooks. He still gives you a really, really decent yardage, even though he does get hurt, but he still plays lights out. And then his backup, what's his name, Maddox, I believe. He has done a really good job when Cook is actually out, whether it's injury or whatever. So I do have the Vikings there, and also Adam Thielen and Irv Smith at the tight end. It's a really good team. So I have them in the second place. They can qualify. They're kind of like the team that can maybe like get into that playoff, especially since the expansion of the playoffs. They could probably get there. But yeah, those would be the only two that would make the play for sure. Green Bay. Even if Green Bay doesn't win the division, I'm sure that they'll be in there for the playoffs. And third place, that's a toss-up between the Chicago and Detroit. But right now, I'm thinking probably Chicago. They do have Justin Fields, which I mean, I know he struggled a lot throughout the season. I don't think he had a really good coaching staff, and I know that they made some changes, so he's actually gonna be playing a lot better. Maybe he's gonna be surprising a lot of people with his gameplay, because he was a really good quarterback in Ohio, and they were actually mentioning him that he was competing with the number one at some point, with Trevor Lawrence as number one, but they still have David Montgomery. He's a good running back, and then Herbert does play the backup running back, or the second tier running back. He plays really well. I know that they lost their key wide receiver, but they have Mooney, which he has been playing well. They got Byron Pringle, which he did play well for the Chiefs. So I think that they do have a solid start and a team. And Detroit Lions, I put them right now fourth, because I mean they had so many issues. I mean, they were the second overall pick, so it's kind of hard to say, oh yeah, they did so many changes that they're going to be up there with competing for their division. So I mean, if I look at their depth chart, they only have they got DJ Shark from the Jaguars. I mean, you guys tell me, is that a huge level up? I do like their tight end very much, TJ Hawkinson. I do consider him one of the top tier tight ends. But besides that, I mean, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown as the other wide receiver, and DeAndre Swift. He was injured last year, so I don't know how much he has. So as of now, even though they did get Hutchinson, like the top player that a lot of people thought from in the defense, I still don't think that that's enough for them to even be considered in the playoff team. And I think Jared Goff, I mean, that's why he got traded to Detroit, because of his gameplay. So that's my style. I have number 1 Green Bay, number 2 Vikings, number 3 Chicago, number 4 Detroit.
I agree with you, Andy. I think the last 3 years, Green Bay Packers have won the division, and I think they'll take it again this year. So if I had to pick and put my money on, it's going to be Green Bay winning the division. When I look at the other teams, so if I put the Vikings, I wouldn't completely rule them out, only because you mentioned a couple of things that I like. I do like their offense. I like their wide receivers. I think overall their offense can be explosive. Kirk Cousins, we just talked about him. I don't think he's all that bad. He's okay. But more than anything, it's the offense around him that really carries him. So the only thing I could say that might just slow them down is Kirk Cousins too. It just might not be enough, and he might be the reason why they hold him back. But either way, I still think Minnesota might sneak up there as the second team that goes into the playoffs. So I agree with you with the Vikings going second on that list. I have Chicago Bears third. I still feel they're kind of in rebuild mode. They're on their second year with Justin Fields, their second year quarterback. I don't remember if Nagy's still on that team. Did he get fired?
From the Chicago Bears? Yeah.
He got fired. So brand new coach too. So
yeah,
they're in rebuild mode. So I don't think they'll be contenders this year. Maybe in 1 or 2 more years they'll be contenders for the division. I just don't see Chicago Bears figuring it out this year to be even competitive with Green Bay and Minnesota. Detroit, honestly, I can't say much about this team. All I can say is call me when you have a primetime game and we can put you on the list.
Yeah, their new head coach was the defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts from 2018 to 2021, Matt Eberflus. So we'll see.
Oh, that's right.
We'll see.
Never heard of him.
He was all right as a defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. They did a good job. It's all Carson Wentz, in my opinion.
That screwed over.
Yeah, that screwed over that team because they were there. They could have gone to the playoffs, but because of those boneheaded decisions that he did in like a couple games.
Oh, well, yeah, a couple games, and or just the one game that you need to win against the Jaguars, who suck. Just that one game.
Well, I mean, then you can also put that on the defense. Why didn't you stop him completely out of all the whole time?
I put that on everybody on that team.
Yeah. But
I remember he wasn't playing well that game.
No, he was not.
So yeah, there you have it. That's my list.
I think. I mean, it's kind of obvious. I think so too. It's just going to be a repeat from last year. It's going to be Green Bay, Minnesota, Bears, and then the Lions. I don't know if it'll be a closer race between the Vikings and Packers. They went. Packers went 13-4, and then it was Minnesota followed up with 8-9. I could maybe see I don't know, Minnesota having like just a switcheroo with 9-8, and the Packers just going the usual 13-4, or maybe like 12-15, or 12-5. I'm trying to see though, because they had 2 losses in that division, and I'm trying to see, it was against they lost against, I think it was the Vikings at some point. Yeah, they lost against the Vikings one time. And then actually, the Lions won against the Packers. I don't remember that game, but I assume it was a very big deal at that time. So we can assume about the same thing. It's just going to be not an exact replica. I think it's just going to be Vikings just win one more game, and the rest of them are just going to be same records. I see the Chicago Bears winning another 6-11, unless this coach is somehow a lot better than the last one, Matt Nagy. But I don't think so. My expectations are kind of low with them because they still gotta figure some things out with their team. Also, I saw some news that Tariq Cohen, the backup to David Montgomery, the running back, I think something
his
happened
Achilles.
To his ACL,
so he didn't play like all last season, and he was doing like a training video, and his Achilles just ruptured, and he's out. I really feel bad for that guy.
Yep. Awful timing. He just hasn't had a break for the past 2 years. So really, they only rely on.
Oh, and
David
Herbert too.
Montgomery.
Herbert is also okay. He's also fine. Yeah, Khalil Herbert.
Oh yeah, Herbert. Oh, there you go. Well, I mean, it's not that much of a trouble because Cohen is more of the receiving back, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just kind of weird situation. Maybe this coach decides to go full on with Justin Fields.
No, he got cut.
Nick Foles is still on that team, right? Or is he?
Yeah, he got cut. So it's just Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman. So Trevor Siemian. Yeah, it's Justin Fields. Then. Yeah, completely.
I think we got a clear start.
Darnell Mooney did a pretty good job last year, and I'm thinking the Chicago Bears were like, they were like, I know Allen Robinson is leaving. We can save some salary cap there, and we have decent wide receivers with Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle. Byron Pringle is honestly a underrated player. He was overshadowed by Tyreek Hill that went to Miami Dolphins. But Pringle did. There was so many times that it just Mahomes just threw it to him, and he would just catch those long passes. So he's a speedy dude. So I think that's Pringle and Mooney are fine. I don't know much about Velus Jones Jr. honestly. I'm also surprised that Tajay Sharp is also he's like the fourth wide receiver. I thought he was better, than that. But oh well. Tight end Cole Kmet. I'm not too sure too much of him. I know that he blocks really well.
He's decent. He's decent.
Yeah. So I mean, Chicago can make the Vikings like a competition. It all depends on Justin Fields. Honestly, I remember you, Yams, that you were actually wanting the Jets to draft Justin Fields.
I think he's good.
Like overall, like compared to
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were thinking that he might have been the best quarterback coming out of college, more even than Trevor Lawrence, if I'm not mistaken. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. I mean,
I think he's a good quarterback.
I don't think he had a really good support. It's with the coaches.
No.
He might have that Darnold situation with the Jets that he just had a really horrible support. But with Darnold, he had to like suck it up and be with those coaches for like a couple years, and now with Justin Fields, he only had to do it just for 1 year. So we'll see how it is with this new coaching staff. It's all up in the air, question mark, but you never know. But let's just not be one of those fans that watches the Hard Knocks with the Detroit Lions this year and be like, oh yeah, I like them just because we see them in Hard Knocks, and you just get a little bit excited for them.
Oh, I mean, that's natural. No, I am gonna root for them. I want them to have one prime time game. I feel for them. That sucks.
I mean, they don't have a Thanksgiving.
Don't they have? Is it gonna be a whole season of the Hard Knocks? By the way, is it gonna be a full season of it, or are they still doing that preseason and then?
I don't know if they're gonna do. Yeah, because they did last year. They did the Cowboys. No, if I'm not mistaken, and then it was the Colts. Like in around November. I don't know if they're doing the same thing. I just know that Detroit they're gonna be their team for the training camp.
So the training camp then, not the full season.
Right.
Okay. Well, it'll be exciting to see that team. I actually forgot to mention that I think Baker Mayfield, that could also be a landing spot, is in Detroit Lions. That was one on my list. And I had forgot to mention it, but
I think it really depends on how Jared Goff does this season, because this was his first season with Detroit. So I tend to give quarterbacks at least 2
years.
Yeah, 2 years. Like you got to show some improvement. Completely show some improvement in the second year, and if it doesn't, then maybe yeah. But right now it's Jared Goff's team.
I agree. Yeah. But yeah. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just maybe the Bears do win a couple more games, depending, because it is a different kind of culture environment with the new head coach. But I think it's going to be the same thing. They, like you said, Andy, they might give Minnesota a little bit more competition as a surprise. But I don't think so. I think this year's just going to be the same thing. I think Green Bay is going to be first, and then Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit last. But it could be closer races when it comes to Detroit and Chicago, or Chicago and Minnesota. But the clear-cut winner here is going to be Green Bay. They're going to the playoffs. We might see Minnesota maybe going for a wild card spot, but who knows? I don't think so. I think it'll just be Green Bay, though. So do you guys have Green Bay for sure going to the playoffs without a doubt? And what about Minnesota?
So for me, I do have Green Bay going without a doubt going to the playoffs. But even if they don't win the division, if like some of these three teams wins the division, they're still gonna figure out to get into that wild card spot. So I have Green Bay if getting there regardless. And the Vikings, for me, it's right now, but it's still a question mark. Like what they have for them is that the NFC is wide open. Basically, there's not that many competitive teams in the NFC as there are in the AFC. So they have that going on for them. So they do have a shot, but it's a question mark. And then I have Chicago and Detroit like a question, like a just complete question mark. Like surprise me, and maybe you can get there. But as of now, no. Especially, I forgot to mention that Khalil Mack left. He went to LA, so that's a big loss as well for the defense.
Oh yeah, true. Yep. What about you, Yams? Do you have Minnesota possibly grabbing a playoff spot in the wild card or no?
Yeah, I see. I think they did it last year, and I think they'll do it again. The Minnesota Vikings. I don't think Chicago will be able to overcome their, I guess, their rebuilding mode at the moment. I don't see it. Even though I believe in Justin Fields, I just don't know much about the head coach. It's going to be a learning process for everyone. But no doubt Green Bay wins that division.
The Vikings did not make it to the wild card. They were short. The Eagles did. I think it was between the Eagles and them.
Yeah, I know the Eagles made it. The Vikings didn't. And you know what to bit them?
Or
that they couldn't beat Dallas with their
Yeah.
backup quarterback in that Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Oh, and Kirk Cousins got
That's
COVID?
right. That was a big deal, yeah. No, Dallas, when Dallas,
They didn't
Yeah,
have
Prescott
Prescott
playing.
playing. It was Cooper Rush.
and it was, yeah, Cooper Rush beat the Vikings, and that was a big deal. And
It wasn't Halloween.
Kirk Cousins couldn't beat the Cowboys. Yeah, I remember that. That's so funny. Oh my gosh, that was such a great game. It was so satisfying. But I mean, you know,
I don't
The rest of
remember.
it wasn't.
I don't remember. I know that he got COVID, Kirk Cousins, and they lost.
Well, he wouldn't be playing if he had
And it
COVID.
was later in the year.
He wouldn't be playing if he had COVID.
Who?
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I know. That's why they lost. That's why I'm getting
See.
confused with the two games. So, well, I stand corrected. Sorry about that. However, I think they'll get it this year.
Maybe. I don't think so, but who knows? Well, that's gonna be it for this episode. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No.
Just again, guys, just gonna let you guys know that we are on Instagram and football underscore tailgaters. We also have a YouTube channel that we're posting, not as much as an Instagram, but we're getting there. We're posting some videos there on YouTube as well that you can comment as well. Just let us know if there's a topic that you guys want us to talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be it for this episode of the Football Tailgaters, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.